Hello, everybody, and welcome to Discussion Beneath the Moonlight. I'm Looney Clooney, your host, and today I want to talk about Projared and the whole situation and drama around it. I also want to talk about cancel culture, which is a big sort of cultural trend that's sort of started to happen. It's been a thing forever, but it's finally gotten an actual term associated with it. So we're going to talk about that too a little bit. In fact, we're actually going to be starting with what cancel culture actually is because I need to define what it is so people can understand what the actual issue is. And I would hope that people would be understanding with what we're going to be discussing because we're going to be diving into some dicey topics today. Some topics that people might not be so happy to hear about, but hey, it's important. So what is cancel culture? Well, it is defined on the Urban Dictionary as when somebody is called out on social media for something they did or for an opinion in the present or past that turns society against them, and it goes viral, ruining that person's career or online popularity. It also goes on to state that celebrities in particular whine about it and call it cyberbullying because it's a form of organic criticism that they cannot control the narrative of. Now, overall, I think that's a good definition. It nails in a lot of points. However, it also is very antagonistic towards social media personalities and YouTubers in general who are, affected by cancel culture the most. Cancel culture affects social media the most. Granted, there is some degree of effect that happens on, say, TV and television broadcasting, but that's a little bit different, because it's not really being controlled by people. If people really didn't want to see a person on TV, they couldn't really control it. It's the media and the networks that have to actually do it. Meanwhile, on social media, you actually can control if you can see a YouTuber or not and how well they do, because their success is immediately tied toward your willingness to view their content. That's the difference. This is why cancel culture as a concept is so dangerous to YouTubers, because something very small can snowball into something very big out of their control, and honestly, it can be completely fabricated and completely, uprooted from the very ground that they stand on. Their career can go up in flames, and it is shocking to say the least that this sort of behavior is actually almost applauded by some people on the internet, whether it be through jealousy or animosity towards another YouTuber, or thinking that YouTuber's content is garbage. Any way you slice it, it's just rooted in negative emotions, and usually not in proper actual criticism a lot of the times. And granted, there are some times where it is valid and it is, this is shitty, this guy is doing shitty behavior, fucking uproot it, be done with it, stop watching his content. That's understandable. And the case that I'm going to be talking about today is a case that is very serious because it seems like, it was for the past 3 months or so, the definitive case of this is what cancel culture is, and this is what good cancel culture is. But I want to just honestly take a look at it and be real. And before I say this, I do want to make an apology. And that apology goes out to Projared and Holly Conrad. I honestly am sorry for jumping on the bandwagon like I did. I didn't expect the way things to go down or the way they were going to go down. I looked at the details and I saw what I saw, and it was very hard to fact check a lot of things, and because of that I jumped on the bandwagon, and I definitely said a lot of things and took a side that if I had known what side I was on, I probably wouldn't I probably wouldn't have agreed with it. And honestly, I am floored with my behavior, and I think very lowly of myself for having attacked two social media personalities that have been such a huge influence on my ability to get into things such as D&D and other video games that I normally wouldn't have. People who have honestly helped a lot and don't deserve the kind of treatment that was dealt out to them. And I wish I could undo the things I said, but I really can't. So, yeah. And I learned a lot about taking sides and spreading misinformation, because honestly, that information was wrong. All of it was wrong. And when I learned about it, it was far too late, and I was already waiting for a response from another YouTuber, that being Jared, who's now released his response and his details on the situation with receipts, so I can honestly sit here and say I was in the wrong. And I will, hopefully with this video, make up for why, or for what I did, and hopefully explain why this sort of cultural phenomenon that happens is a bad thing to jump on. So without further ado, who is Projared? Projared is a YouTuber who had just hit 1 million subscribers as this whole shitstorm brewed. See, what had happened was Projared had come out with an announcement saying that he was going to divorce his wife, and openly stated that this was a thing that was going on and he wanted it to be a good, clean breakup and that nothing was going to go down, and just wanted everyone to essentially leave the relationship happy, which is, you know, a good way to sort of talk about your relationship, especially when you don't have as much privacy in the space of, say, a social media influencer like Projared, especially in Projared's shoes. Keep in mind, Projared was a YouTuber who had a ton of just business connections. You gotta keep in mind, this guy was on Nickelodeon, literally helping promote a TV show. That's how big he had gotten. He also helped promote games with Nintendo, and he even was honestly probably one of the bigger YouTubers who helped push D&D to get popular, if I'm being 100% honest, because he was a big part of that. A lot of his D&D videos are the first videos that come up when you want to make a character, and they're honestly the easiest ones to follow. It's really astounding how much of a influence he is on YouTube. So with that being said, he's that big. He doesn't have as much privacy as one would like when dealing with this sort of situation, so he posts a update saying, hey, getting a divorce, blah blah blah. And what winds up happening is his now ex-wife comes out of the woodwork and claims that he was cheating. And cheating allegations are a huge deal for a lot of people because cheating is one of the worst things you can do. I understand that some people need to do it to get out of really bad situations, and that's not okay, but understandable. But you have somebody cheating, a very high-profile celebrity essentially cheating, who not only is a high-profile celebrity, but a high-profile celebrity that works in a lot of family-based, kid-related businesses. He's not really, he's not Disney squeaky clean, but he has to be, he has to keep up appearances. So hearing that your business partner is a cheater does not fly well. Now, this flew very far and got attention from a lot of people. This also caused 2 other people to come out of the woodwork too. And for a while, the first day or two, it was just him getting fucking rammed into the ground about how he was a cheating bastard, blah blah blah. And that cheating was awful, and that he is a scoundrel for cheating on his wife. People came out to defend him, and when they did try to come out and defend him, they would immediately get drugged down into the dirt with him. And that's where the issue sort of comes in with cancel culture again. Cancel culture doesn't just affect the person that is in the canceling. It affects everyone around them and anyone that is associated with them. Because now, say, the Game Grumps have videos on them, involved with those people. Now guess what happens? Those videos cause the channel to tank and nosedive and get a lot of shit called through them. And it's just, it's bad. It's bad. It's just bad. And honestly, I cannot believe that some of the shit happened when it happened. It was awful. The way that the sort of shit happened was Heidi had released her details, went into a whole tirade about how she was cheated on and how Holly Conrad, also another person who was a big deal, by the way. She was a big part of the Game Grumps, and just a little while before this actually dropped, probably around October of the last year, she had split off with Ross O'Donovan of the Game Grumps, and I think that that's a really big part in why this blew up the way it did, because everyone loves Ross, everyone does, and everyone saw Ross and Holly as this huge gamer power couple, so to see them split up and then to see this happen, a lot of logical leaps were made that even I made, and that's why I got so upset originally. Was I saw that and was like, oh my god, this is fucked up, this is awful, I can't believe that this would ever happen, and I was really upset. And that's why a lot of people were upset, because this essentially person had cheated on his wife with basically a friend's ex-wife, and apparently they were seeing each other for a long time, and things were happening, and there was a lot of lies and bullshit being spread around. And that's the thing that gets me, is that most of the stuff that was told by Heidi's side doesn't add up after you analyze all the stuff. Now granted, here's the thing. If somebody cheated in this relationship, it really doesn't matter. It doesn't. It's not the main part. It's not the main problem. It's not the thing that causes people to want to cancel this guy so bad. The real issue and the real problem that came out of this was the pedophile allegations, which is a big deal. And we have had multiple instances of pedophile allegations leading to canceling. The original idea that I can think of is when Keemstar actually dropped a bunch of pedophile allegations against Basherverse and was talking about it and openly discussing it, when in reality that's not really what happened. And I'm not getting into that whole discussion right now, that's not what this video is about, but just keep in mind, this has happened before, people, and it's gonna keep happening unless we wise up to this. But so these two people come out of the woodwork and start talking about how fucking Projared. Okay, so before we go into this, I need to explain another thing about Projared. Projared had a not safe for work Tumblr. This was a Tumblr where he could interact with fans, talk about, sexual topics, send nudes and whatnot. It was like, it just isn't something that you should be doing as a person with Projared's clout and ability to, I guess, manipulate and get people to want to, it's just, in a way, it sort of manipulates people into wanting to do something, because, if Projared wasn't Projared, people wouldn't be sending him these nudes. People wouldn't be doing this. But because Projared is Projared, people are. And people are willing to discuss and do these lewd acts. I don't want to get into this, whole topic. I don't want my video to get a strike. But yeah, he would send nudes and shit, and people would send nudes and shit, and it was a big old gross time, and I don't like it, but whatever floats your boat, man. But two minors come into the scene, and they both lie about their age. And Projared actually leaks the deets on these by, he essentially goes and talks about it and shows receipts in his video, which will be linked down and below, by the way. It will be linked in this video. But he shows receipts of the conversation that they had and how they were discussing things, and how essentially he asked for their age immediately. And they did say that they were 18. They both said that they were 18 at the time. And this is where things get really shoddy. This is where stuff really picks up and starts to get really, I don't like how this is going. But, so, these guys leak all these details, leak the nudes, discuss all the shit about how, oh my god, Projared, is predatory towards minors. He was not being predatory at all. And he was not being predatory towards minors as well. He definitely was not doing that, based on the video that we saw now, and based on other things that people have been saying. He actually has actively been very, chill about how he goes about, dealing with the nude situation, and his wife was pretty okay with it too. He just decided that it wasn't because he was cheating or anything, but he was trying to get out of a relationship that was abusive, and that's what he says, and I honestly fully believe him. If what is to be believed is true, I don't know. Ultimately, the main thing that gets me about this situation, though, is that these two people had essentially lied about their ages, got a bunch of shit on Projared, and then doctored the information in order to get Jared in trouble. Why they would do this, I don't know. And the timing was just too perfect, because Projared was trending for a little bit. Of course, they would gain followers from this. They would gain attention. People would, essentially join them and would essentially back them up. And I don't know how to describe this. They just follow blindly without fact checking. And Jared actually went and fact checked, and summarizing this, they weren't mentally sound. At least one of them wasn't. And one of them actually pulled back and said, okay, I didn't do this. And they actually deleted the tweets where they said that Jared did this. So, it sort of proves the point that if they're not even willing to keep their tweets up about the situation, it sort of proves that they are obviously, they're hiding something. Just as Heidi was hiding things by releasing only specific sets of details. And let's get back into Heidi for a little bit. So the reason why this whole case of cancel culture got so bad is because Heidi was allowed to run rampant with whatever she wanted to say, and she did, and she definitely ran around saying what she needed to in order to get people to turn on these two people who were very close and very involved with each other, and were very, let's just say, they were heavily tied into the success of certain aspects of their career, such as Dice Camera Action, other shows, just general stuff. They were really closely tied together with all that stuff. So, with that being said, a lot of things happened where Heidi was just running her mouth and saying a bunch of bullshit. And that's where the main problem with this sort of arose, which was Jared, I'm just gonna call him Jared for now. Jared let Heidi have the floor and control the narrative. And I think the best part of all of this is Heidi was definitely not expecting the minor thing to come into play. The accusations of sending nudes to minors, she was not expecting that. But she definitely used it to sort of keep the fire burning hot and full of ire. But she was not expecting that. She still incorporated it, but she wasn't expecting it. You can tell by the way that she sort of brings I'm not really allowed to speak about those things. She's not really allowed to be a whistleblower on any sort of case on that. But she does go into full detail about how, oh man, Holly Conrad was cheating and blah blah blah, and Jared was cheating too, and they are evil because this thing. please leave them and flock to me, my sheeple. And she did that, and people followed. I followed. I was an idiot. I blindly followed behind her because she was the one that was leaking details and showing receipts. Meanwhile, Holly was fucking damning Jared to hell, basically, because Holly was not helping the situation. And I want to talk about Holly for a second. I want to talk about how fucking dumb Holly is in this situation. Now, I just made an apology in the beginning, talking about how I'm sorry about dragging Holly through the mud, but I'm going to do this one last time because this is so fucking stupid. So dumb. I cannot believe that she did this. Holly Conrad actively sabotaged herself and Jared by responding and posting things on Twitter. She actively was just not helping in the slightest. And it was the fact that she would fight and try and like pick fights and argue and be like, why are you being like this? Why is everyone acting like this? Why does everyone hate me all of a sudden? I'm like gamer wife material. Why do you hate me? It sort of did not paint the best picture. And then on top of that, Holly was saying how she corrected or checked herself into a mental hospital, blah, 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 was doing all these different things. She privated her Twitter. She was the biggest magnet of like, this is true, because Holly was acting like a fucking belligerent idiot. And I'm trying not to swear in this one, but it's true. Holly was being so goddamn stupid throughout the whole thing. Honestly, she should have took the same stance that Jared and Peanut Butter Gamer did, which Peanut Butter Gamer also is another example of how the situation hurt other people, because Peanut Butter Gamer had been trying to defend Jared, but he couldn't. He actually was unable to defend him because in that, like, he just got shouted down. And the worst part is, like, things got bad. And he said openly that he's sorry and that he didn't mean to offend anyone who's been abused or blah, 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 that whole deal. But a big deal and sort of issue arose when, after he did this, he says, "I'm sorry, I apologize for standing up for Jared, I hope you can all forgive me," and then backs out. And I think that was a statement or it wasn't a statement by anyone, it was it was sort of like a command from Jared to maybe shut the fuck up, you're being dumb, and you're just gonna get yourself drugged down deeper. He got drugged down, and what wound up happening was Projared resigned from Normal Boots. He wasn't fired, he resigned. And that's the clear thing. He then goes to openly apologize to these two people who made these false accusations. And then he gets painted out as being manipulative because he's saying sorry, even though there were emails leaked to other people and other representatives that were saying, we want an apology, and then they actively deleted those demands. So it really goes to show how they manipulated this whole situation and how they manipulated everything around this. Now, of course, Holly and Heidi continue their bickering into the months until they finally both fade into obscurity because nobody gives a shit, and everyone remembers Projared as the clown who cheated on his wife. And yeah, that's where the story ended until Jared uploaded this video. And it's time to talk about why cancel culture was such a big deal in this situation. And why this particular line of celebrities in particular whine about it and call it cyberbullying because it's a form of organic criticism that they can't control the narrative of. You're right, they can't control the narrative of this. They cannot openly say, this is wrong, this is what's right. They cannot control the narrative of anything in that matter, actually. Nobody can control any narrative. But the problem is misinformation and poisoning of the well, which is a logical fallacy that exists. It is presenting something in a negative light, and then anything that you say that comes into that negative light becomes more likely to be accepted because you said something negative. You know what I mean? It's like, it's the way that they got the people, basically everyone, to turn on Projared in the first place. They did the tactic of poisoning the well. And the problem is, when you have a fan base like on social media that is honestly the equivalent of handling a rabid animal, or a giant wild animal for that matter, and the bigger it gets, the more dangerous it gets. Until it reaches a certain point where it's like, it really doesn't matter how big it gets, because you're already at that point where it's like, even if something does happen, you're safe. But and there's like a point where it's like, it gets so big that it becomes a more dangerous and dangerous rabid animal as people want to take that success away from you. And in this case, somebody saw a chance for them to get success from this situation and ultimately uploaded lies and slander about a individual who ultimately could not defend themselves and needed to seek out legal advice in order to figure out what was the right course of action to take. Not only that, but it was also during a case where an abusive spouse was actively trying to dismantle him and his friend's career in order to keep them from essentially being successful and for breaking away from them. Now, does this make it okay? Does it make it okay to cancel anyone? I don't think canceling is a good thing to do. I think you need to let stories develop and let them happen before you make your conclusions. You can't say that somebody is a bad person if you barely know the situation. What we knew was this. Projared had left his wife, and his wife came open and was very open about, what they were doing. And granted, she left out a bunch of shit too. She left out parts about the relationship being a polyamorous relationship. She left out bits about how she had a significant other and then said, oh, I didn't have a significant other during that time. Like, that was serious. I was just texting and we never did anything. But how do we know? How do we know what's really okay or what's really going on behind the scenes with these people? We don't. And honestly, the cheating aspect of it isn't even our business to begin with. It's not. It's stupid, it's bullshit, it's petty, it's dumb. It's dumb. And we robbed a man of a success that is very, very hard to come by in the YouTube space, and is very, very important to a lot of people. So to see him get it robbed because an abusive spouse and two dumb kids who wanted to rob him of his success for their own personal benefit and their own personal gain is awful. It's ridiculous. It's the worst thing I can ever imagine. It's a horror story in the making. And I just want to come out and say this right now. If you think that Projared's canceling was okay, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, I understand that there's certain aspects of it that I don't agree with either. The fact that he had a not safe for work Tumblr where his fans could interact with him and send him pictures, that's not okay. That's not a safe thing for people to do. It's not good. It's bad. It's not good for business in general. But, he was actively making sure and checking if people were 18, and, people lied. People were awful and lied and used that to get an edge over him. And the worst part is, these people probably aren't going to get punished. That's the worst part of it. I cannot believe that these people aren't going to get punished for it because they literally destroyed a man's career. A man's career who has been He has been working hard ever since I can remember being on YouTube. He's been around for so long, I can't even honestly imagine YouTube without him on the platform. So, with that being said, I'm kind of going around in circles. Cancel culture is inherently bad. It's inherently toxic. It actively destroys communities and people. It is so bad and so just anti, I guess, like, anti-intelligent. It's unintelligent at best and borderline animalistic tribal behavior at its worst, where if you don't agree with cancel culture when it's happening, like say if I sat there and I was like trying to defend Projared during this time, what would probably happen is this: everyone would look at me, they would be like, hey, you're okay with cheaters then, and people would attack me and say I'm just as bad as Jared for being okay with him being a cheater, which is not what I implied at all by saying that I think that the situation should turn out and be, information should come out first before our judgments are placed, rather than having people come in and yell at us and attack everyone who doesn't agree with them because we have this tribalistic brain thing going on where we're trying to keep, we're trying to exclude people who are different from us, but we want to, get our point across and make sure that we're the right ones. And it's just dumb. I humbly must ask that you all stay respectful in the comments, because I know that this video is gonna get fucking lit up with comments if I don't say that. Post what you think down below. I honestly want to know, what do you think cancel culture is to you and how bad it is, and what you think should have happened, and if you think that the people who slandered Jared's name should get punished. I know I probably missed a bunch of stuff talking about this the way I did. It's a very off the cuff sort of discussion video, but I think it's important. And with that being said, I think I got everything down, so I hope I can see you guys in the next podcast where I will be talking about D&D horror stories, probably. I don't know. That's what I wanted my first one to be, but I never got around to recording it, and I need to sort of chronicle the shit show that it was. But I do want to talk about D&D eventually on this channel, so see you in the next video. Hopefully you enjoyed this podcast. If not, oh well. Maybe I can make a better podcast later. But while I'm on the ending of this video, you can catch me at my Twitter, which will be down below in the description. All my links will be down in the description. We have a Discord down below that we would really like you all to join and, talk about stuff. I would really enjoy seeing you guys work. I have a Patreon down below too. And yeah, if you could subscribe and follow me on Twitter so you can see when I actually talk about things or when I'm uploading, it'd be great. See you next time. Have a good day. Good night.